As a full-time guitar instructor of nearly 8 years, which is pretty crazy to say out loud and to even think about, I've been really fortunate enough to have a lot of really awesome students along the way and current students that I see every single week, and we have a blast during lessons. But what I wanted to do today was kind of go against the grain and construct a list of 5 ways that you could easily terrorize your guitar instructor without even knowing it. Now, today's list is in no particular order. I really just wanted to kind of construct my own personal list from my own experiences as a full-time guitar instructor, based around things that my students have done in the past to drive me nuts. But again, if you guys would like to support us directly here before the video starts, make sure to subscribe. It does help us a ton. We're still a small and growing channel, but your support means a ton. So make sure to subscribe if you do want to see more weekly content just like this. Okay, the very first thing that I wanted to talk about is going to be when students come in with the long fake fingernails. And I do want to start off by saying that I understand totally that it's usually for a brief special occasion. It's usually for like a week and they got it done for a particular reason. Totally fine, I understand that. But this was actually something that inspired today's video. I had a student just last week who basically said they were going to a wedding that weekend and they got their nails done the day before our lesson. So they came in and they tried to play guitar and they really got nowhere. It's nearly impossible. Now, the best thing you can do if you are a student and, for example, you get your nails done and they're, again, the longer ones that are going to really interfere with your playing that day during lessons, the best thing you could do is definitely just reach out to your guitar instructor beforehand, maybe the week of and or the day before, and just let them know, just so they can kind of know what to expect and kind of work around it. Typically that helps out a ton, because if you just come in and you're like, oh, I got my nails done, and then you start to try to play like a C chord and it starts, rattling, we're getting muted notes all over the place, and you're getting really frustrated, the guitar instructor is getting a bit frustrated, it's not good for anybody. But again, me personally, I understand that people have things going on outside of guitar, totally fine. Just let us know. Again, it goes kind of a long way. But it can make, if we don't know any better, again, if you come in and I don't know that that's going to be the case, it can make a 30-minute lesson feel like 3 hours, because we're just trying to get somewhere. We really can't go forward with our lesson, and we're just trying to get some decent sound out of the guitar. So again, I did want to add that to today's list because it really inspired today's video. Okay, the second thing that I wanted to include on today's list of ways that you could easily terrorize your guitar teacher if you don't know any better is going to be assuming that you have a credit built up from lessons that you've missed. Now, this has happened to me really about twice ever, so I'm really lucky that I have had some really awesome students, and I've only had 2 instances of this, but again, when it happens, it can really drive you nuts. And what I really mean by a credit is, let's say, for example, a student of yours has been taking lessons for a while, and there's a month where they come to 2 lessons and then they miss 2. Well, for example, what I do is I collect payment at the beginning of the month, and they pay for the whole month in advance to basically solidify their time spot. Just makes sense, and it kind of protects my time and basically what I'm doing with all of my students on a schedule, week-to-week basis. But if a student misses, for example, 2 lessons because they just simply missed, they had something else that they had to go do, I understand. Again, what they're doing, and they have to understand, is protect my time and my time spot that I provided for them, if that makes sense. But there are some instances where a student will miss 2 lessons and think that I owe them 2 lessons. And eventually they basically form like this, almost like this savings account of past lessons that they've missed, and that I owe them all of a sudden next month 2 lessons for free. And it just simply doesn't work that way. And I've learned from experience over time, again, it took me a couple of years to really make sure that I was doing a lot of things right, is I highly recommend, if you're a guitar instructor or a music instructor in general, to write out a private lesson contract, really go into detail with these things, even if it's like 2 pages long, and make sure that when a student starts lessons with you, they read over it, you email them a copy, you keep the original, you have them sign it, and it just kind of protects you. Because again, some people might forget about these things and it might be very innocent, but some people might be trying to really screw you over, and you just have to be careful. Again, it hasn't happened much to me, but there are some people that believe that you owe them lessons, and they don't really understand the month-to-month payment method, I guess, that some of us guitar instructors instill in our lessons when it comes to collecting payment and finances. But again, this can really make a relationship with a student go south very quickly, and I did want to add this to this list. Again, it's probably the thing that happens the least, but it can happen, and if you are somebody that wants to start teaching, just be aware of it. Okay, the third thing that I want to include on today's list of ways that you could easily terrorize your guitar instructor without even knowing it, or maybe you do know it and you just really don't care, hopefully that's not the case, is if a student comes in sick. Now, if a student comes in and they're coughing and sneezing every 30 seconds, it really stresses us out. Here's why, a couple of reasons. One is we as instructors obviously don't want to get sick. If you have a full roster of students and you get sick to the point where you can't teach, it really makes catching up and doing makeup lessons harder, giving refunds if you give refunds. It just makes it a total mess. Not only that, I'm also in charge of looking out for all of my students. So if I see about 30 students a week, which I do, the last thing I want to do is have them even possibly get sick. That's awful. So we don't want that to be the case. And if you are a performing musician, myself, I play solo acoustic, I sing and play. Singing and being sick, they just don't go hand in hand. It makes you sound awful, feel awful, look unprofessional, all sorts of things. So there's huge reasons why coming in sick is just a no-go. I understand that people don't want to lose out on their money. But again, if you're an instructor, what I could also recommend to you would be to let people know and ease their minds that if their son or daughter or themselves, if they're taking lessons with you, if they're sick, just make sure that people understand that you are able or willing to do a makeup lesson. Doesn't mean that, we're just going to move on to the next week, but try to do a makeup lesson or a virtual lesson. That's huge. I do that these days as well. It just kind of makes everybody happy if they can do it. And if you can do it, just saves all of that stress and headache. Last thing I wanted to add, again, I'm kind of throwing a lot of tips in this video today, I just realized, is what I like to do twice a year, typically right when school starts, first week of school, as well as when winter is around the corner, flu season, I like to send a mass message to all of my students and their parents just to remind them, again, if their student is sick or if they're sick, just to make sure that they stay home. We'll do virtual lessons or we'll make it up. I just want to do everything that I can to ensure that my students don't get sick or I don't get sick, and we keep everybody healthy during that time. But again, if you come in and you're obviously super sick, sneezing and coughing, it's the number one way to stress us out for the rest of the day as a guitar instructor. Okay, at spot number 4 is going to be when students forget their papers or their folder with their papers in them. Now, this has happened quite a few times actually, and the worst part of it is the fact that when students come into lessons, they don't realize that they forgot their papers until they show up to lessons and it's not there in their guitar bag, for example. And there's nothing that we can do about it. There's nothing the student can do about it. There's nothing that I can do about it. I wasn't let know because they didn't know, and I wasn't prepared with anything. So it really puts us guitar instructors in a really awkward position for about, again, 30 minutes if you're teaching 30-minute lessons. And we aren't really sure really how to go forth with the lesson. What I tend to kind of do my best job is, obviously I know what we did at our past lesson and we can kind of work around things a little bit and talk about things, but there's not much we can really do, especially if you're more advanced and you've been working on a piece or something like that, or you need your chord chart. I can kind of help you out with that stuff, but really not having your papers is a huge problem. It's usually an accident, totally understandable, but it can make having lessons really hard that day for both the student and the guitar instructor. Okay, at the final spot, spot number 5 is something that drives all of us guitar instructor or music instructors crazy, and it's the only reason that I've ever really had to drop a student before, and it's happened twice before, and it's going to be having no call, no shows as a guitar student. Now, this is an issue for a few reasons. I guess you could think to yourself, oh, I already paid for the month, so if I have a no call, no show, who cares? But it's all about the respect of it at the end of the day. Now, my rule in my private lesson contract is if a student ever has 3 no-call, no-shows in general, that we're basically going to cancel lessons and we're done with lessons. And I've only had to do that twice ever. And again, in 8 years, that's some pretty good odds. But the reason that's an issue, again, is just the basic understanding and respect aspect of the no-call, no-show when it comes to respecting your instructor's time. But also the fact that, again, if you're seeing 30 students a week, odds are 1 or 2 students are either going to have to reschedule. They're asking if you have a makeup lesson. If you're playing live on top of it, it really narrows down your time in a day where you could have easily filled in that time spot. So for example, if a student is supposed to see you at 4 o'clock and they have a no-call, no-show, one, yes, they paid you. Sure, I guess that aspect you can't be upset about because they did pay for that time. Just got to move on. But let's say a student earlier in that week needed a makeup time and you really didn't have anything. Well, if you knew that, you could have made that student's life easier, Could have been obviously more money in your pocket if that's how you charge. There's just a lot of reasons behind it. But at the end of the day, it's just having respect for this instructor's time and other students' times in a sense, especially if they're looking for makeup lessons. And again, if you're a guitar instructor or looking to teach, those are things you're going to want to definitely consider. But I did want to include the no call, no show because it really can get annoying really fast for us guitar instructors. And again, it just goes a long way if you can at least let us know in advance. And if you do let us know, let's say 5 minutes before lessons that you won't show up, at least you let us know. That's going to be really important. So if you are somebody that's taking lessons, looking to take lessons, worst case scenario is the no call, no show to your private guitar instructor. But if you can at least just let them know a few minutes beforehand, that still goes a long way. I highly recommend you consider that. All right, I had a lot of fun putting together today's video and constructing this list of 5 ways that you could easily be terrorizing your own guitar instructor without even knowing it. Remember, if you're one of these students that are doing any of these 5 things, try not to. Hopefully you learned something. Maybe you got a good laugh out of some of these things, or maybe you're an instructor yourself and you really related, which is awesome. But once again, if you do want to support us directly here at Growth in Music, just make sure to subscribe. It helps us a ton, and I will see you guys next week, next time for the next video.